Hi, welcome to Professor R.J. Placone on Communication Excellence. I think this is my 39th video. I hope you will consider subscribing to my YouTube channel if you like the videos. You know, uh, we learned very young that when words don't match tone of voice or nonverbal communication, we go with the tone and the nonverbals. Let me give you an example of that. So if a young child hears mommy or daddy or grandma or grandpa say, "Don't do that," the words are "don't do that." But there's levity in the voice. There's maybe some slight laughter. There's a little bit of a smile. So the message that gets through to the child is, I've entertained the adult. Let me do it again. So the words "don't do it" don't seem to matter. The same can be true as we try to evaluate political discourse. So, if we think back to the recent election and how affordability and cost of living was a major issue in that election in Virginia, in New Jersey, in New York City. And afterwards, when Donald Trump was asked about it, he certainly dismissed it. At one point, he said, "I don't want to hear about affordability. I don't want to hear about cost of living. We have the greatest economy ever." And when pushed on it, even from some news anchors that tend to have a wonderful relationship with President Trump, he said, "Fake polls. I don't believe these polls." So that's what he's saying. That's what the words are there. The immediate reactions. But now you see what he's been talking about in the past week. There's been a lot of attention to a potential rebate of $2,000 to some number of Americans. It would come from tariff revenue. How this would be delivered is a bit unclear, but it's certainly at the talking stage and something that Trump is repeating fairly often now. And there's been a lot of focus on housing affordability. He's been arguing that we should have 50-year mortgages, rather than 40. And even though you would pay more in interest over a 50-year span of a mortgage, he's arguing that you would pay less per month. So less of your income would go toward housing per month, and maybe more people could afford to buy a house if that were the case. And now talking about portable mortgages, the ability to take a mortgage with you if you may move. So it certainly seems like in the past week, there's been a lot of attention to cost of living, general economic issues, and overall affordability. So we hear the words, "not an issue," "fake polls," but then what's he talking about? So it's trying to differentiate maybe an immediate reaction and just sort of a global interpretation of what's going on versus future promises, forward oriented thinking and discourse. And I think when there's a tie, put your money on that forward thinking because that's what the person's thinking about. And that gives you greater insight into how they really see the issue. And as I've said before, I think this affordability issue wasn't just an issue in the last election or won't be just an issue in the midterm election. I think it's going to be the issue in the 2028 presidential election. So no one should dismiss the issue. I think everyone's got to pay attention to it. And hopefully there'll be a lot of competing proposals for which then the American public can judge which proposals do we think make sense. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.